far as I'm concerned, but
Should be, I mean,
we have 6, right?
I can tax say the latest and greatest version. I even have my book on my iPad, so. Oh, wow. Living large.
Have it on there?
I do.
What's that? Oh, I didn't know. I called. Gotta kick it.
Call the meeting to order of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Monday, January 14th, 2019. Roll call, please.
Tony Gokenbach,
Here.
Mark Heidrich, Mark Kleesner,
Here.
Mark Piontek,
Here.
Tom Holdmeyer,
Here.
Sandy Lucy,
Here.
John Borgman,
Here.
Chuck Watson, Samantha Cerruti Wacker,
Here.
Carolyn Witt, and John Milges for Sal Maniaci.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. First item on the agenda is the minutes from the December 10th, 2018 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to item number 3, case number 190101. Lisa Brown, is it Greevy?
I think that's pronounced Grifey. That's how
Grifey?
I've heard it before
Okay.
with other people.
Applicant is requesting a special use permit for a vacation rental dwelling located at 346/348 McLean Avenue. John.
Okay, good evening, Commission. All right, within your packet, there was a staff, or there is a staff report, not was, there is a staff report where the applicant has a multi-family unit. In this analysis, it showed that being a two-dwelling unit. And part of, I guess they're requesting to, do these Airbnb, short-term lodging, vacation rentals, whatever we want to call them, which would accept lodgers for periods of less than 30 days or less. And within that, we did feel like it was insignificant to the surrounding area, not necessarily a detriment to the community, or to the neighborhood, I'm sorry. And I do have a little, sorry, I do a little visual, apologize for that. But it is at the corner of McLean and Horn Street. These are to the right there on the aerial photo. You can kind of see those apartment complexes around. This does give a view facing the southeast, just trying to show the two different units. Prior to this meeting, though, as I was going through, and it was brought to my attention, to the rear of the units, and I apologize, this was prior to the meeting, it does appear there may be 2 additional units below. Now, as you can see in your staff report, the analysis that was done, we did not identify that prior to this meeting. So I just want to bring that to your attention and just make sure that, if there's some discussion about that. I think the main concern there would be parking. With 2 units, there was adequate parking, we did feel, but with 4, that may not be the case. I can tell you that I've not sat here and done a detailed analysis or discussed that with Sal, so.
Questions or comments?
Yes, is that included in the request, the lower portion?
As I went through the application and took a look at it,
See that?
they did put down a number of units, 4.
Okay.
And without the applicant being here, I can't guarantee that they wouldn't want to use, do
That
those
would
4
be 2
units.
above and 2 below.
2 above and 2 below is what I see here. Yes.
Okay. Is there, the application is saying that they have 4 units, but it's hard to, I don't know if they're counting on-street or off-street parking or what they're counting. And this is really only coming before us because this is not in the downtown district,
Correct.
right?
That is correct. Yes.
Because otherwise it would not, it's just right outside of the boundaries.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess my only question is if this was a home for a vacation rental, I wouldn't have as much heartburn, but it's an 4-unit apartment building.
Yeah,
And,
the whole neighborhood is.
that whole neighborhood is apartments.
Right.
And I just don't know whether the analysis was done correctly by staff stating that it's a 2-unit versus a 4-unit. And I was hoping the owner occupant was
Right.
going to be here tonight so we could maybe ask some questions too, and they're not. So I moved to table until we look at the analysis again.
I
and
have a
determine
comment also before a motion's entertained. I
about
think.
that.
I would second that motion to table. I think that's appropriate. I think the applicant should be here as well.
I
Well-
agree.
Well, then I might just interject that if the apartment had adequate parking and things for 4 units previously, and the area is vastly rented apartments or typically rentals, then the difference between a short-term rental lodging and a long-term rental is only the period they stay being less than 31 days, not
And-
necessarily a parking offset or anything.
Well, there's also the, presumably they would not have to get the annual occupancy inspection, or whenever a renter would leave, they would circumvent the annual occupancy inspection.
That
And
is,
in an apartment building, that's concerning to me from the life safety standpoint.
Sure.
Because
Well, what do
this-
we do if someone, for life safety inspections, if it's just a home? Someone's home that they're doing for Airbnb?
I think, isn't it just upon occupancy or?
Right.
upon-
It's
I
a-
guess if
There is
they have
no
a
mech-
business- Isn't, if they get a business license, there has to be an inspection, right, of the premises?
there would be an occupancy, trying to think here. There is a, yes, there's an occupancy inspection done when the property is initially put into that use. But after that, there is not one. So for example, if John or my, if John was to move in for a week to stay in Washington and I was to move in after, there is not an inspection done intermittent in between, and there is no yearly inspection that's done after.
Where there is for a 4-family rental or 2-family.
Well, only if
Correct.
the people move out. If,
Right.
if,
Right,
if
when
someone
the-
stays for
That's what I
20
mean, if
years,
they
Change of
move out,
Right, when the unit
Change of
turns.
occupancy.
So if somebody stays there for a long time,
the unit could fall into disrepair and we wouldn't know that situation
True,
either.
we won't
Correct.
know. And I guess to piggyback off of Tony, and John, maybe you can answer this, because I don't know it off the top of my head. Would the parking requirements be different for this kind of a business use versus an apartment use?
You know, I don't know if I know
think
that off the
so.
top of my head, if there would be a big change. I mean, if you're occupying let's just say a 6-month lease, I would think there would be a higher level of parking, but is there a requirement in the code? Probably nothing I could point to.
Okay, that's
So
what I
we'd-
wasn't sure about.
But that's part of this analysis.
Right.
With this change that we haven't done, because we haven't had an opportunity to look into that.
I guess I would just be more comfortable knowing that it met the requirements as a 4-unit, because I tend to agree with Tony, if it's in an area with a lot of rentals, I don't know that it matters as far as, is it going to be a disruptive use? But I do want to make sure that the parking requirements are met and, that we're not missing anything.
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
One other comment. I was reviewing the occupancy, certificate of occupancy requirements, and it says, for residential dwellings, an inspection and certificate of occupancy shall be required upon any change of occupancy. So you could construe that to be every time somebody moves in or out, you gotta have it inspected.
But I can't imagine city staff is going to inspect every, Airbnb
I-
when somebody vacates.
Right.
Occupancy inspection does last for 120 days, but beyond that, yes, they could say that they had to do that again.
Doesn't say
oh
that.
my.
Doesn't-
Well, that's interesting. So every 4 months, regardless, someone should be getting
Any
one then.
certificate of occupancy shall become invalid if the reoccupancy is not commenced within 120 days after it's issued. So that's, if you do an occupancy inspection and it's vacant for 4 months, you gotta come back and have another occupancy inspection before you can reoccupy it. But
But then, Mark, how do you define, if occupancy, like, say, the occupant is technically the business, the bed and breakfast occupies this, whether they have guests consistently, who's your occupant? Is it your B&B guest, or is it your business?
I think a fair interpretation would be every time somebody moves in or out, that's a change in occupant. I
So
mean, the business is
hotels do.
not really occupying the structure. It's the people. But I would concede that occupancy section of the code or the certificate of occupancy was not written with this.
Sure, because I
No.
can't imagine for city staff, that might be
Right.
kind of burdensome to, and certainly
Be
to
in there
inspect
every other day.
And the
Yeah,
cost,
it could be, that would be
Every
crazy.
weekend.
and the
Yeah.
cost.
Exactly.
Maybe there should be some mechanism that's attached to every place paying bed tax or something.
I would think it's probably a good idea to table this so we can go back and relook at that and see if we should revise that occupancy permit section to,
Well, and I think this is the first one that I can remember that we've had that's been an apartment-type building and not a
Everything else has been
single-family
single
residence.
Right,
Family
most of them have been.
residential.
Correct,
yeah,
or,
just a
But would that
residence.
hold for the single-family residences as well? If somebody stayed there for 30 days,
well, that's.
according to that
again,
code?
I think the way the code is currently written, yes, I think you could read it that way. I don't think that was intended
No,
because
not at
this
the
didn't
time.
exist at the time.
Right.
Right.
So we may need
did
to
this.
review the code.
Revamp.
Right.
Well, because I know Sal was working on revising things with the Airbnb.
Right.
So maybe that's something we need to throw back on Sal and
Well-
say, and look at the occupancy too.
Well, I mean, another similar situation, large apartment complexes, you know, I've been involved in like master metering of a building rather than have individual water meters for each individual apartment complex. And part of that discussion, which we haven't had anything like that really come through in a long time, but part of that discussion was the occupancy. So if you have a master meter, and let's just say, let's just say that I build it, and that's a bad example too, but a master meter, and I own that, and I just and I pay the bill. So it comes from my business, and I
Right.
paid that bill. How do I ever know who's moving in and out? The city
True.
now. How
Right,
does the
how-
city ever know?
exactly.
There's no way to enforce the occupancy in code, section of the code. You could never, you know, you would never be triggered to go in there.
I
There's
guess
no
unless you got a
mechanism.
call or a complaint or something,
Right,
or
so the only,
self-reporting.
so the only way that you could do it is in those type of situations where you have a master metering is, you know, January, you know, the end of January of each year, you're required to get another occupancy on each unit, would be one way to do it.
Semi-annual or something.
Yeah, or something like that. I mean, the code doesn't address that, but that's another issue that, you know, we've had some apartment complexes that have come up lately too, and that has not been addressed at this time. How do we actually get in there and make sure that those places are safe? Because the utilities never go in those renters' names, and with how we're
City
kind of seeing
utilities.
things.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
So, good idea to table this and
There is a motion to table in a second. No further discussion, we'll have a vote to okay the
Postponement.
table or the motion or to not table it. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 4, case number 190102, Big Elm LLC. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for Highland Metals Plat 5.
okay.
John,
Believe this is fairly straightforward. The applicant has a lot 6, which is, you know, just shy, I believe, of 11 acres, or no, it's just shy of 12 acres. He would like to split that up into 3 lots, 6A, 6B, 6C, working its way down High Street south of Don Avenue behind the new commercial building being constructed just to the west of Modern Auto, southwest of Modern Auto. As you can see there are 3 lots. They fairly straightforward. Lot 6C does have kind of a irregular shape following the creek line. There is a detention basin, existing detention basin constructed on it that would remain on that Lot 6C. There is an existing perpetual stormwater easement. You can kind of see it on Lot 6A, dashed line. I don't know if anyone recalls, that's where that pond used to sit. There's about a 3-acre, I believe, drainage retention pond, and that easement is dedicated to the city for use. I am aware, we are working with the applicant on trying to come up with a mechanism to relocate that detention base, you know, that detention volume to a different location in order to make that property more marketable. And I do think we are working down that path. I mean, we're definitely going down that path pretty quickly. So, it's, like I said, fairly straightforward. There are no utilities that need to be in. All utilities are on site, and we would recommend approval.
I have a question, John, on that, and I just caught this. You mentioned that detention basin that's shown on there, that would be part of Lot 6C?
Correct.
Okay, and according to what's on this sheet, that would be an R1A zoning?
Correct.
So can we have two different zonings on,
You can have split zoning on a lot.
split zoning on a lot?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Yep, and a detention basin.
just
You,
don't remember.
John, you can, and the code allows the property owner to make an application to the Board of Adjustment to extend the zoning either way.
Okay,
So if it's commercial on one and residential, they can request that it all be commercial or all residential.
and in this case, it would probably be all zoned commercial,
More than
if he would want to request it.
that would be my
Correct.
guess.
I mean, with the detention basin being there, I mean, wouldn't be necessary most likely, but
Okay,
it could. be done.
I just
Yeah.
had a question, thank you.
Any other discussion by board? Kurt, anything you want to add?
No, it's pretty straightforward. And to your point, John, that was, I think we platted that detention basin to kind of clean that up because we had purchased that from the neighboring development and relocating that detention basin from a wet to a dry. I think, Mark, I don't remember, there was something in the plat when we did that at the time. I think they're just trying to clean that up, but probably when we get going further down the road, that'll be a common ground. That little triangular detention
Okay.
basin will just be a common ground, but we just wanted to pull it into a plat because it was in another developer's plat, so we wanted to show it on this development because we're storing stormwater on it. So
Was that originally Modern Autos
it was,
detention basin?
Wilson, Jim.
Oh, Autumn Leaf.
And we purchased that from Jim Wilson to store water on it, so
Expand upon.
just kind of identifying where it's at in the world, if you will.
So Kurt, is there a plan for this yet, or?
Actually, we have Lot 6B, middle lot.
Middle lot, B.
There is a company that should be coming in front of the city. They have plans to put a assisted living center on that lot.
Okay,
They got a certificate of need, I think, unanimously on the last Monday, the 7th, was it? 6th, 7th, whatever it was, they went in front of Jeff City. So they plan on putting an assisted living center there on Lot B. But they'll be coming in front of John to get the plans approved for that. It's a zone property for that, so.
Kurt, just a question with that, and we haven't seen a plan yet, so you don't even, if you don't have an answer, that's fine. Do you plan on, with these three lots, do you plan on having individual curb cuts to each lot, you think? Or is there gonna be some sort of internal drive, do you know, or is there, do you know?
You know, they're big enough that we had anticipated each lot would have its own curb cut. There's an actual curb cut on Lot 6B right now. We had built for.
Yeah, that's right, B is fairly far away from Don Avenue. And the only reason why I bring that up is because, sorry, Kurt, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but the reason why I bring that up is just a reminder to everybody that we do not have anything in the code that has access limitations to any street. So High Street is a major street. There is no, access limits. I don't think anyone wants High Street to turn into a Rabbit Trail Drive or anything like that. So it's just, Sal and I have been working pretty hard to kind of put together some verbiage to meet in the middle with developers and try to put a package forth. We have not done that. You guys have not seen that. But, access limitations is something that we've really never discussed before. And it's a big deal on situations like this. And that's why I'm happy that Kurt's at 6B, because that's further to the south to get away from Don Avenue. Right. But cross-access is a big deal, and we need to kind of have that kind of on our radar as High Street develops further south. And I think Kurt would agree with me.
And I envision as this unfolds and develops that really there's no need to have parking on High Street. It's going to be a feeder street.
Correct.
So in reality, it should probably be a no parking on both sides of the street. I don't know why you would, because your code's gonna require anybody who builds in a commercial development to have enough adequate off-site parking, so
Right, right.
I don't really see a need to even have parking on High Street.
Right.
You know, down the road, so.
So right now, there's not a specific plan for A and C yet, just,
No, what, you know, some law firm wants to build an office on sale, or some, you know, art
Have at it,
studio. I really think an art studio would be good on 6C. There's a historic building there we could incorporate. First building ever had gas lights in the city. Help out, ever was there.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So move. Any other items? Thanks, Kurt.
Hi, Kurt.
Good night.
Nothing else.
You sure?
I'm
Yay.
100% certain.
All right, I'll entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So move.
All right.
Sal would do anything to get out of that comp plan.
No comment. I don't even know. I'm not.
I had my homework turned in.
You and Tom both.
I forgot my homework.
Oh, you forgot to. Oh, yeah.
Trying to think what I did with mine. I don't think I
There
did
is
it.
a